12 books. 12. And not a single 5-star. Not a single one. Not one. Do you guys remember when I said last month, hopefully all the books that I think I'm gonna love, I adore, and I have all 5 stars. I want to love the books that I think I'm gonna love. I don't think that's too much to ask. Apparently that is too much to ask. So in the month of November, I read 12 books. I had 1 4.5 star, 7 4 stars, 2 3.75 stars, 1 3.5 star read, and 1 3-star read. So all in all, clearly no books that I hated, which was like a huge plus, but also no books that are my favorite of all time. What's also really interesting to note is I did not DNF any books this month. So let's start with my 3-star, and that is a very short story slash like novelette that I read that was a snowy monster erotic short, and it was called Dash Away by Adrienne Blue. There's really not much to say about this one. You can see the cover. I read that. I think I said this on Discord as well on the Hideaway. It was a book. It was a book. That's really all I have to say about it. It was 3 stars. If you want a wintry erotic short story with a monster and you just want the snowy vibes in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, at a cabin, this is your read. Have other short erotic snowy wintry stories done it better? Yes. Have some been worse? Also yes. It was a book. My 1 3.5 star was The Gargoyle Grinch by Lilith Stone. This is the first book I've ever read by Lilith Stone. It was a monster Christmas romance. This whole series takes place in Motham City. It's a city created by Lilith Stone. It's a whole series of cozy monster romances, and this is one of the Christmas ones, and it's a retelling of The Grinch.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
We have this gargoyle. He is in charge of security for the city. He is a veteran who has PTSD. And then our heroine takes on different jobs through like a temp agency, being a housekeeper. And she's trying to save up to open up a place where orphans have somewhere like a community center available to them when they don't have anywhere else where they really feel like home. She was an orphan and she just wants to take care of kids and give them a place that she never had. So it's a classic grumpy sunshine. He's very grinchy. He does not like Christmas, though she is not a huge fan of Christmas either, but she's definitely not a Grinch. I had a really good time with the Christmas vibes of this. I thought it was cozy, and I actually read this very quickly, I think in less than 24 hours. So it was a fast-paced read and I enjoyed my time. Otherwise I would have put it off and taken longer to read it. The downside of this one is I wasn't the biggest fan of the hero at all times. Sometimes he just did things that kind of peeved me off. I just wasn't a huge fan of him. There was a grand gesture at the very end that just put a bad taste in my mouth. Overall, it lost a full star just for the hero alone, but that didn't take away from my enjoyment. This was still a really great, cozy monster Christmas romance. Still had a great time. I also think it could be a personal thing with me with not liking this hero. I don't necessarily think that everyone's gonna dislike him. So it's definitely a Christmas romance that I would recommend. Okay, 3.7 stars. We've got 2 books in this category. The first is The King's Spinster Bride by Ruby Dixon. This is about a spinster who is the princess. She becomes queen right at the beginning of the book because her city's been invaded and her father has been unalived by the invading forces, these Cyclopae, which are a different kind of version of Cyclops. They aren't born with one eye, but they take their eye as part of a ritual before they become soldiers. She saves the young prince of the Cyclopae, and ever since then he can't keep her off his mind, and he's just obsessed with her and he wants to make her his one day. Fast forward like 12-ish, maybe more years later, she is living in a nunnery. He and the Cyclopae have taken over, and now his father has passed away and he has become the king. So he decides it is now time that he can make her his bride. He comes and gets her. It's very cute. It's a novella. It's quite short, which is why I didn't feel like I could give it 5 stars. I did really enjoy it. It was cozy. If you like a really obsessed hero, this is it. It was an age gap where the woman was older than the man, and it was just a really fun time. It's really great for if you're looking for a fantasy romance novella. The second 3.75 book was Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This is a gothic fantasy romance that is perfect for spooky season, perfect for fans of Ninth House and Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Our heroine can see ghosts and all types of phantoms and anything that is undead, basically. She is a necromancer, and she ends up joining this competition to save her sister, Her sister has joined it without telling her, and it's this very dangerous competition called Phantasma, where you are faced with your worst fears. There she meets a ghost and they have a romance. There are multiple levels of this competition and it's a very deadly competition. Make sure you check the trigger warnings before going into this one. I thought it was fun, but I didn't think it was as good as it could be. I would have appreciated more beautiful writing and more atmosphere for what it was supposed to be. I thought that it was very spicy, and while that was fun, I think that she could have concentrated a little bit more on the atmosphere and the writing and toned down the spice just a ton, which is weird for me to say because I know you guys know I love spice, but I just think that it was a little bit over the top in this one and we could have done a little bit more with the quality. Other than that though, I thought it was a really good read. I really enjoyed myself. I had fun. There was times that it got a little bit slow. The pacing was a touch uneven, but overall I would still definitely recommend this, especially if you're looking for a spooky fantasy romance to read in the fall. So I had a lot of 4-star reads in November. I think that's a really good thing because if I give a book 4 stars, it means I don't just enjoy it, like I really enjoyed it. I really had a good time. I would highly recommend it. No, it wasn't perfection, but I really had a great time. And so clearly I had a great time this reading month. I had 7 4 stars, no DNFs. I just didn't get to the top with those 5 stars. But let's talk about the 7 4-star reads that I did have. The first one is A Fated Throne. This is the 6th book in the Zodiac Academy series by Carolyn Peckin and Susan Valente. This is a very long fantasy romance series that surrounds the Vega sisters. They're the long-lost heirs to this Fae kingdom. They grew up in the human realm, not realizing they were Fae, and one day they are sent to the Zodiac Academy where they discover they are the heirs to the throne. Their parents are no longer alive, and there's these 4 boys that are out to get them. They are bullying them and treating them awful, and that's because they are the children of the 4 council members who have really been leading the city in the absence of the king and queen, and so they think they are the heirs to the kingdom. They see Tori and Darcy as a threat to that. So they bully them, and it's a bully romance, and that bully aspect lasts for at least 3 books in this series. It lasts for quite a long while. Very slow burn. There's multiple love interests, multiple storylines going on. It's very complicated. It reminds me almost of like a CW show. So just know that going in. It's kind of immature, very ridiculous, over the top, but it's also addictive and super fun. I enjoyed book 6. I give it 4 stars. I can see how things are going downhill a little bit. I know everyone talks about it really starting to go downhill around book 6 and 7 because things really get a little bit more drawn out than some people think it needs to be. I'm ready for that. I know that's what's going to happen. There's 9 books total in the series, so I do have 3 more, and I'm still looking forward to reading them and finding out what happens to these characters. I can't wait to see their HEAs. Next was Hunted in Holly, and this is a dark fantasy Christmas romance by Leanne Bell. So this is a short novella. It's a little bit over 100 pages, or around that 100-page mark, and it is about the newly anointed Mother Earth. Her family has been slaughtered and she's off to seek revenge against St. Nicholas, Santa, up in the North Pole, and that's where the story begins. It ends up being a captive romance, and it's just a lot of fun. I thought it was so awesome how much Christmassy vibes were really pushed into this book. Between the foods, the smells, the views, everything was very Christmassy. And I gotta say, that is one of 2 books that I read where the hero was Santa, and I like Santa romances. They can be a lot of fun. The next Santa romance that I read was Alchemies to Lovers by Jennifer Chapman. This is the 2nd Jennifer Chapman book that I have read. I also read Spookily Yours, which was a Halloween-themed romance. In this one, our heroine is an elf, but she doesn't know it. She's the daughter of a runaway elf, though her mother has now since passed away. She's working at this North Pole of a Disneyland. It's like an amusement park. It's supposed to be a version of the North Pole, and it is the holiday season. This guy comes. He's some high up executive, and so he's trying to find out how everything is running. Is everything running smoothly? And it turns out that he is actually Santa's son, and he takes her back to the North Pole with him, and there she discovers she's actually an elf, and they have a romance, and he he is to become Santa one day too. So he needs a Mrs. Claus, obviously, and it was really cute. It was so sweet. There were some things that I docked off a star for, like the fact that he was really over the top with the nicknames, for example. It was a bit much. But other than that, I thought it was wonderful. I tend to be fairly lenient when it comes to Christmas romances, because if it's giving me a cute romance and it's giving me all of the Christmas vibes and atmosphere that I want, I'm pretty likely to be generous with it. And so if this hadn't been a Christmas romance, I don't know, but it was, and it really literally brought everything I could want from a Christmas romance, from ice skating to gingerbread house making to cookie baking and hot cocoa and everything in between. It really brought all of the Christmas vibes. While we're on the Christmas train, let's talk about a few more. I also read Ice Planet Holiday. That's book 4.75 in the Ice Planet Barbarians, and this is the first No Poison Day celebration that takes place on the Ice Planet. Ice Planet Barbarians is a series by Ruby Dixon where these women have been taken hostage by these really mean aliens, but then crash landed on this planet where they meet these other species of aliens. They are big, they are blue, and they are their fated mates. And each book in the series follows a different couple. I love this series so much. This was the first holiday one where they get together and create a new holiday for the aliens and the humans together, and it ends up being called No Poison Day because of a miscommunication over the whole point of mistletoe. I also read Rudy by Honey Phillips. I love Honey Phillips, another wonderful alien romance author, and this is one of her new holiday releases from 2024. It is a Rudolph retelling. It is the Rudolph retelling I never knew I needed. Absolutely adored it. We have our heroine who is just escaped Earth before it was hit by a solar flare. She's with a bunch of humans who are being sent to like different alien colonies. She is sent to Norpole. The aliens there really don't want to deal with her, so they send her off to Rudy, who is the outcast because of his antlers that glow. Oh my gosh, it is so cute. And it is like a pretty on the plot points Rudolph retelling, and it was done really well. I thought it was so incredibly imaginative, the way she was able to really match those plot points with the alien romance at the same time, but it really hit all of the Rudolph vibes. I loved it. I highly recommend it. Looking back, maybe it is a 4.5 star. It might be my favorite Christmas romance I have read this year. The next book I read was Love Letters and Thirst Tonics by Haley Blackwood. This is for my Patreon buddy read with the red wine tier, and this is a cozy romantasy about vampires. I really enjoyed this one. I want to read more in this series. There's multiple books in the series, and each one follows a different couple. Vampires have to take thirst tonics to kind of deal with their thirst, and at the very beginning of the book, our heroine takes one made by her best friend and it turns her hair blue. Things are starting to go wrong in the town, and our heroine owns this really cute like trinkets shop, but it gets an infestation of beetles and it kind of partially collapses. There's a new carpenter in town and he is a vampire as well, and it is kind of an enemies to lovers romance between them. He's helping her clean up her store, but they are also sending each other letters back and forth using these enchanted mailboxes, but they don't realize they are sending these letters to each other. So it's kind of an anonymous pen pals romance too. And I loved that aspect as well. I thought this was so cozy. There's also a snowed in aspect to this one. So if you're looking for a snowed in trope to read this winter, this definitely has that. This town is pretty cold. It's known for its cold weather, and it's taking place at the end of winter when like spring is supposed to be coming. But all in all, I really had a wonderful time, and I do have to read more in that. I love cozy romantasy, so I'd highly recommend that one if you're looking for a cozy fantasy romance. Okay, I have 2 more books to talk about, and sorry, my voice is starting to go. We have been sick on and off all fall, but we've been hit by another one, so hopefully my voice can hold on just a few more minutes. So the next I have is Dawn of Onyx, and this is by Kate Golden. I gave this one 4 stars. It was a fantasy romance, the first in a trilogy, I believe, and I think the 3rd book just came out. The 2nd book made the Goodreads Choice Awards for the Romantasy category, and this is in a world where each kingdom is based on a gemstone. Our heroine is from Amber. The Onyx King is going to war with Amber, and they're poor and they don't understand why the Onyx King is going after them. Well, one day her brother comes home from the war, he's deserted, and there are Onyx soldiers after him, and she decides to save her family by healing one of the soldiers. After doing so, they give her the option to save her family's life if she goes with them and becomes a healer for their war camp. She ends up being taken to the Onyx Kingdom, where she realizes that there's no way to escape because this keep is surrounded by a super dangerous, beast-infested forest. She meets a prisoner and a romance ensues from there. This is such a good book. I had such a fun time. I need more of these like 300 to 400 page length, like shorter, fun fantasy romances that have maybe not as intensive world building, but just a little bit lighter, a little bit faster paced, plot driven, and just fun. I had a fun time with this one. I'm looking forward to reading book 2. And finally, definitely the best book I read all month was Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I've heard nothing but good things about the series and I had to finally get to it. This is a fantasy romance. Our heroine is a healer and she is living with the humans in the city, but there's also these descended who are fae. Her mother has gone missing recently and she ends up getting called up to the castle to help heal some children who have been wounded in an accident. So in this world there's gods, there's fae, there's really a lot going on, some intensive world building, and our heroine has a love interest already, a friend slash love interest. Maybe he wants a little bit more than her. She has a family, she has a brother, she has a dad who's really her stepdad. Everything is going fine. But her world is really turned upside down when she goes to the castle to help heal these fae children. She meets the prince who is supposed to inherit the throne when the king passes away. The king is elderly and sick. There's also a rebellion potentially brewing and other wars brewing from the other kingdoms. So a lot of politics. It sounds like things are really going to pop off. I'm so excited to read book 2. She meets the prince and there's this undeniable attraction. And obviously she's conflicted. And so there's a little bit of a love triangle in this first book. It is so much fun. I just had the best time. I cannot wait to read book 2. I've heard that it's the best book in the series that's out so far, Glow of the Everflame. I can't wait. I want to freaking shout this book from the rooftops to everyone. So if you've read it, tell me down in the comments. We need to chat about it. I can't wait to read book 2. So there you have it. Those are the 12 books that I read in November. No crazy huge 5-star, 6-star standouts, but no DNFs, no 2 stars, no 1 stars. Overall, a pretty solid reading month. Let's hope that in December I can have some 5 stars, right guys? Please, I really don't want to be inserting this clip into December, okay? If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button and comment down below. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. All of my social media is linked down below, including my Instagram, my Goodreads, my Patreon, and link to the Hideaway Discord. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life. Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long.